Hi there. Real quick before we jump into the episode. If you enjoy this episode, or any of the other episodes, be sure to give us a follow or subscribe. It would also be great if you shared it with a friend, or better yet, left a review so others can know how awesome it is. Thanks so much. And now, the episode.
Hey there, press starters, and welcome to the Press Start Leadership Podcast, the podcast about game-changing leadership, teaching you how to get the most out of your product and development team and become the leader you were meant to be. Leadership coaching and training for the international game industry professional. Now, let me introduce you to your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Mifsud.
Hey there, Press Starters, and welcome back to another awesome edition of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing the importance of proactive leadership versus reactive leadership in the video game industry. How proactive leaders in the video game industry create sustainable studios, empower teams, and resilient projects while avoiding the pitfalls of reactive leadership. The video game industry is one of the most dynamic, volatile, and unpredictable creative sectors in the world. Studios face constant pressures from rapidly changing technologies and shifting market trends to demanding player communities and unpredictable funding cycles. In such an environment, leadership styles is not just a matter of preference. It's the difference between stability and chaos, sustainability and burnout, success and failure. At the heart of this discussion is the difference between proactive leadership and reactive leadership. Proactive leaders anticipate challenges, prepare for the unexpected, and build systems that foster resilience. Reactive leaders, on the other hand, wait until problems arise and then scramble to put out fires. While no leader can predict everything, the proactive approach is essential for long-term success in the video game industry. This podcast explores why being a proactive leader matters more than ever, how reactive leadership harms both teams and projects, and what actionable steps leaders can take to shift towards proactive leadership. Why the video game industry demands proactive leadership. Unlike many industries, the video game sector is built on rapid innovation, creative experimentation, and high stakes. Games can take years to develop, millions of dollars to produce, and still fail on release if they do not resonate with players or align with market trends. At the same time, the industry has become notorious for volatility, with waves of layoffs, acquisitions, and sudden studio closures. In such an environment, reactive leadership creates instability. Leaders who wait for crisis to hit are constantly behind, struggling to keep their teams motivated while trying to manage investor or publisher expectations. Proactive leaders, by contrast, recognize the risks and prepare their studios for inevitable turbulence. They create cultures of foresight, resilience, and adaptability that helps their team survive lean times and thrive during periods of abundance. The costs of reactive leadership in the game industry. To understand the importance of proactive leadership, it helps to see the costs of being reactive. The video game industry is littered with examples of reactive leadership decisions that led to chaos. Crunch culture. Leaders wait until deadlines are missed before addressing production bottlenecks, resulting in unsustainable overtime. Layoffs. Instead of planning for financial downturns, leaders expand recklessly during profitable years, then reactively cut staff when revenue declines. Community backlash. Studios release unfinished or exploitative products, then scramble to patch problems when negative reviews flooded. Technology adoption. Leaders ignore trends like live service models or cross-platform play until competitors dominate, forcing last-minute pivots. These are not just business failures. They are human failures that erode trust, damage reputations, and drive talented developers out of the industry. The benefits of proactive leadership. Shifting towards proactive leadership offers clear benefits for both studios and the broader video game industry. Stability for teams. Proactive leaders anticipate resource needs, build realistic timelines, and prevent constant emergencies. This creates healthier work environments where developers can focus on creativity rather than crisis management. Better decision-making. By planning ahead, proactive leaders make thoughtful, data-driven decisions instead of reacting emotionally. This reduces wasted resources and helps align projects with long-term goals. Stronger communities. Proactive leaders engage with player communities early and transparently. This prevents backlash and builds trust, creating loyal fan bases that sustain franchises. Sustainable growth. Studios led by proactive leaders are more likely to survive downturns. They save during good times, diversify revenue streams, and prepare for market shifts. Empowered teams. Proactive leadership gives developers clarity, autonomy, and confidence. Teams know what to expect, which reduces stress and improves morale. Proactive leadership in action. Proactive leadership does not mean predicting the future perfectly. It means creating systems and habits that prepare for uncertainty. In practice, this looks like developing contingency plans for funding shortfalls, building financial reserves instead of overextending budgets, conducting risk assessments for projects early in development, communicating openly with teams and players before problems escalate, prioritizing professional development to prepare staff for industry shifts. This mindset transforms leadership from reactive firefighting to proactive stewardship. Actionable step number 1, build contingency plans. Every studio, from indie to AAA, must prepare for unexpected events. Proactive leaders ask, what will we do if funding falls through, if a publisher pulls out, or if a major platform changes its policies? How to implement this. Develop at least 2 contingency plans for each project. Identify critical risks such as funding, staffing, or technology challenges. Outline step-by-step responses to each risk. Communicate these plans clearly to leadership teams so no one is caught off guard. Contingency plan is not pessimism, it's preparation. Actionable step number 2, set realistic production timelines. One of the biggest drivers of crunch and burnout is unrealistic timelines. Reactive leaders set ambitious dates, then panic when teams fall behind. Proactive leaders work with developers to establish achievable milestones. Practical tips. Break projects into smaller milestones with realistic deadlines. Factor in buffer time for iteration, playtesting, and unforeseen challenges. Reassess timelines regularly, instead of waiting until deadlines loom. Realistic timelines reduce the need for constant emergency interventions and allow teams to focus on quality. Actionable step number 3, financial planning and reserves. Proactive leaders know the game industry is cyclical. Lean times follow periods of abundance. Instead of spending aggressively during profitable years, proactive leaders build reserves. How to build reserves. Save a percentage of profits in a dedicated buffer fund. Diversify revenue streams to reduce resilience on a single game. Use conservative financial forecasting rather than best-case scenarios. Financial discipline is one of the clearest signs of proactive leadership. Actionable step number 4, proactive communication with teams. Teams thrive when they know what to expect. Reactive leaders often withhold information until a crisis erupts, leaving developers blindsided. Proactive leaders share information early and honestly. How to communicate proactively. Hold regular updates on project status, including risks. Create spaces for staff to ask questions without fear of reprisal. Acknowledge uncertainties rather than hiding. Transparency builds trust and prevents small issues from becoming crises. Actionable step number 5, engage players early and authentically. Reactive leaders wait for backlash before addressing community concerns. Proactive leaders engage players early, building feedback loops in the development process. How to do this effectively. Share development updates through dev blogs or social media. Invite players to test early builds and provide feedback. Be honest about delays, scope changes, or monetization decisions. Players are more forgiving of problems when they feel respected and included. Actionable step number 6, invest in people before problems arise. Reactive leaders only address employee issues after burnout or attrition. Proactive leaders invest in well-being and professional development consistently. Practical steps. Offer regular training and growth opportunities. Provide mental health resources and sustainable workloads. Encourage vacation use and model healthy work-life balance. Proactive investment in people prevents crises and builds loyal, motivated teams. The balance between proactive and reactive leadership. No leader can be purely proactive. Crises will still happen. Sometimes reactive leadership is necessary. The goal is not to eliminate reactivity, but to minimize it. Proactive leadership creates the conditions where reactive moments are rare and manageable. Proactive leader balances foresight with flexibility. They anticipate risk, but when surprises happen, they respond with calm and confidence rather than panic. This balance is the mark of strong leadership in the video game industry. Actionable step number 7, conduct regular risk assessments. One of the hallmarks of proactive leadership is identifying risks before they become reality. Reactive leaders often ignore red flags until problems explode. Proactive leaders integrate risk assessment into their workflows. How to implement risk assessment. Hold quarterly risk review meetings with project leads. Ask teams to identify potential challenges in budget, staffing, technology, or creative scope. Prioritize risks by likelihood and impact. Develop action plans for the top risks. Risk assessments shift thinking from what went wrong to what could go wrong, and how do we prepare. Actual step number 8, encourage a culture of anticipation. Leadership style sets the tone for studio culture. In reactive environments, staff wait for problems to be dictated by leadership. In proactive cultures, teams anticipate needs and take initiative. Practical strategies. Reward staff who flags issues early. Encourage experimentation and learning from small failures before they escalate. Train managers to look ahead instead of just tracking present tasks. When everyone in the studio is encouraged to anticipate rather than react, leadership becomes distributed and more resilient. Actionable step number 9, scenario planning. Proactive leaders use scenario planning to prepare for multiple futures. Instead of assuming one trajectory, they ask, what will we do if X, Y, or Z happens? Examples in the game industry. What if our game underperforms at launch? What if our publisher shifts priorities mid-development? What if a competitor launches a similar game first? What if new regulations affect monetization models? Actionable step number 10, proactive technology adoption. Technology shifts constantly in the video game industry. From graphic engines and distribution platforms to live service infrastructures and VR and AR trends, studios must adapt quickly. Reactive leaders ignore these shifts until competitors dominate. Proactive leaders explore new technology early, testing it in small ways before committing. Practical steps here. Dedicate a small portion of resources to R&D. Encourage staff to experiment with new tools or platforms. Attend conferences to stay ahead of industry trends. Pilot new technology and prototypes rather than core projects. This ensures that when trends solidify, the studio is prepared rather than scrambling. Actionable step number 11. Protect against burnout proactively. Burnout is one of the most destructive forces in the game industry. Reactive leaders only address burnout after developers quit or collapse. Proactive leaders design workflows and cultures that prevent burnout before it occurs. Ways to protect against burnout. Cap overtime and enforce sustainable schedules. Rotate staff between intense and lighter projects. Train managers to monitor well-being. Provide mental health resources. Preventing burnout protects creativity and productivity long-term. Actionable step number 12. Proactive community management. Communities can make or break games. Reactive leadership waits until backlash explodes before responding. Proactive leadership invests in authentic community management from day one. How to be proactive with communities. Involve community managers in early development planning. Provide regular updates even when things are going smoothly. Engage respectfully with criticism instead of hiding from it. Build trust through honesty even when sharing difficult news. Proactive engagement ensures that communities feel respected, preventing small frustrations from turning into large-scale backlash. Long-term cultural transformation. Shifting from a reactive to proactive leadership style is not just about implementing a checklist of steps. It requires cultural transformation. Studios must evolve from environments of constant crisis to cultures of foresight. Key elements of cultural transformation. Leadership modeling proactive behavior. Training at all levels in risk management and foresight. Embedding reflection into regular workflows. Creating rituals of anticipation such as quarterly planning and scenario reviews. Cultural change takes time, but it creates long-lasting resilience. The balance between proactive and reactive leadership. While proactive leadership should be the default, there is still value in being able to react effectively. Emergencies still arise no matter how prepared a studio is. The difference is that proactive leaders react with calm and strategy because they already anticipate the possibility of crisis. Proactive leadership reduces the frequency and intensity of reactive moments. When reactivity is necessary, proactive preparation makes it more effective. The long-term benefits of proactive leadership. Studios that adopt proactive leadership practices consistently outperform those that remain reactive. The benefits extend across financial, cultural, and creative dimensions. Financial stability. Proactive financial planning prevents catastrophic downturns. Employee retention. Developers stay longer in studios that respect their time and well-being. Creative innovation. Teams, free from constant emergencies, have more bandwidth to experiment and create. Reputation. Studios known for proactive transparency attract loyal players and investors. Resilience. Proactive studios weather market shifts, layoffs, and industry volatility far better. Final thoughts. The future of leadership in the game industry. The video game industry will always face volatility. Market shifts, funding challenges, and evolving technologies guarantee uncertainty. But leaders are not powerless. The choice between proactive and reactive leadership determines how studios respond to this uncertainty. The importance of proactive leadership versus reactive leadership in the video game industry cannot be overstated. Proactive leaders anticipate challenges, invest in resilience, and communicate transparently. They create cultures where teams thrive, communities trust, and projects succeed. Reactive leaders, in contrast, scramble from crisis to crisis, eroding trust, burning out teams, and damaging long-term stability. For the industry to grow sustainably, more leaders must commit to proactive practices. This means carrying forward lessons of foresight, discipline, and empathy. It means redefining leadership success not only in terms of profits, but also in terms of people and sustainability. The game industry does not need more reactive leaders. It needs proactive visionaries who are willing to prepare for uncertainty, invest in their teams, and lead with empathy. Those who embrace proactive leadership will not just survive the cycles of volatility, they will build studios, games, and communities that endure. All right, and that's this week's episode of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, thanks for being awesome.
Oh, hi. And the episode's over, but thanks for sticking around till the end. Be sure to check out more episodes in the playlist and new episodes every week on Monday. Follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to leave a review. Thanks again for being awesome.